Certainly, below is your speech on How to Stop Overthinking Everything the Quickest Way, delivered in a style inspired by Mufti Menk, calm, sincere, rooted in Islamic. My beloved brothers and sisters, sometimes what we call overthinking is not just a mental habit, it is a spiritual test. It is a silent whisper, a subtle intrusion, coming from the one whose mission is to derail your peace, Shaytaan. He doesn't always come to us with big, obvious sins. He doesn't always need to. Sometimes, all he has to do is whisper doubt into your mind. And then he steps back and lets you do the rest to yourself. He says, what if it all goes wrong? What if you made a terrible mistake? What if you fail? What if they laugh at you? What if Allah doesn't forgive you? And you begin to entertain the whisper. You replay it, you stretch it, you twist it until a small thought becomes a mountain on your chest. That's how he works. He plants the seed and you water it with fear. Overthinking is not always a result of a busy mind. Often, it is the result of a heart that is uncertain in its trust in Allah. Shaytaan knows this. He knows that if he can cause hesitation, delay, anxiety, and confusion, even without causing a sin, he has already succeeded in distracting you from peace, from clarity, from hikr, and from progress. So what does he do? He magnifies things that don't need to be magnified. He makes you afraid of things that haven't even happened. He makes you doubt the sincerity of others, your own intentions, your past choices, your future hopes, and you begin to think you're just being cautious. When in reality, you are being cornered by whispering, and the danger here is that you start mistaking overthinking for deep thinking. You confuse fear for wisdom. You begin to believe that worrying more somehow means you care more. But that's not how it works. Caring is not the same as obsessing. Wisdom is not the same as fear. Overthinking keeps you in a loop not because the problem is unsolvable, but because Shaytaan keeps pulling you away from trusting the solution. He will keep you paralyzed on a decision. He will make you question your istikhara. He will tell you, you didn't do it properly, do it again. Maybe Allah didn't hear you, maybe it didn't work. He will make you feel like you have to be 100% sure before you move, and in doing so, you never move. That's the goal, to delay you, to exhaust you, to make you feel incapable, when Allah already gave you the tools to decide, to act, and to move forward. And this whisper is not just a mental weight, it becomes a spiritual trap. You start leaving prayers late because you're too overwhelmed. You stop making dua because you don't know what to ask for anymore. You stop sleeping peacefully, you stop living peacefully, and Shaytaan simply watches because he doesn't have to push anymore. You're stuck in the cycle on your own. But the moment you recognize this overthinking for what it is, not a personality trait, not a harmless habit, but a whisper meant to distract you from tawakkul and sabr, that is the moment you take the first step toward freedom. My beloved brothers and sisters, there comes a point where thinking becomes worrying, and worrying becomes overthinking, and overthinking becomes a burden that weighs down the soul. You feel stuck as though your heart is being pulled in different directions, while your mind loops the same questions over and over again. What if I fail? What if it's the wrong decision? What if it doesn't work out the way I planned? You see, at the root of overthinking is not always the need for more information. Sometimes it is the absence of tawakkul, the absence of true trust in the one who already knows the outcome. Tawakkul is not passive. It is not careless. It is not saying, I won't do anything and I'll just wait for Allah to fix it. No, that's not tawakkul. That's tawakkul, which is laziness disguised as faith. True tawakkul means, I do my part sincerely, and then I let go with certainty, knowing that whatever happens next is part of a wisdom I may not yet understand. This kind of trust, deep, calm, unshakable trust, is the strongest shield against the storm of overthinking. Because once you know that Allah is the one in charge, and you are only responsible for your effort, you start to feel lighter. You start to breathe again. Allah never asked you to guarantee results. He only asked you to be sincere, to strive, to take the halal path, to ask Him for guidance, and then to leave the rest to Him. When you truly have tawakkul, you don't spend your nights obsessing over every what if. You don't lose sleep trying to control things that are not in your hands. Instead, you turn to the one whose knowledge has no limits, whose plan has no flaws, and whose mercy outweighs his wrath. You begin to realize that you were never meant to carry everything alone. You were meant to try and then trust. You were meant to act and then rest in the knowledge that Allah will never waste the effort of the doers of good. Tawakkul does not mean everything will go the way you want. It means that no matter how it goes, it will be the best way for your dunya and your akhirah, even if your eyes cannot see it yet. Because sometimes what feels like a delay is a protection. What feels like a loss is actually a shift towards something better. And what feels like silence from Allah is actually preparation for something greater. Overthinking thrives when you rely only on yourself. It grows when you believe you have to figure out every detail, solve every puzzle, predict every outcome. But the moment you say, Ya Allah, I've done what I can, now I leave the matter to you, the storm begins to quiet, the mind softens, the anxiety loosens its grip, because when you place your trust in people, they may fail you. When you place your trust in outcomes, they may disappoint you. But when you place your trust in Al-Wakil, the one who manages all affairs, you never walk alone, and you never fall except into his mercy, my beloved brothers and sisters. One of the greatest causes of overthinking in our lives is the desire to be perfect. We are so afraid of making mistakes, of getting things wrong, of not choosing the best option that we end up doing nothing. We sit in hesitation, stuck between possibilities, paralyzed by the pressure to get everything exactly right. But let me tell you something important. You were not created to be perfect. You were created to be purposeful. When your goal is perfection, you will always feel you're falling short because perfection in this life is an illusion. Only Allah is perfect. The rest of us are constantly learning, trying, failing, growing, and trying again. That's how it's supposed to be. You might delay a decision for weeks or months because you're looking for the one perfect answer, but maybe there is no perfect answer, only sincere effort followed by trust in Allah. Maybe the true success isn't in picking the best a road, but in walking the road with the right intention. You see, when your decision is driven by purpose, meaning you ask, is this pleasing to Allah? Does this bring benefit? Is this a step towards something meaningful? Then your heart becomes lighter. You're no longer trying to please the world. You're trying to fulfill your mission, and that's the shift from pleasing people to pleasing your Creator, from chasing flawless outcomes to chasing sincere actions. Because when you align your choices with purpose, suddenly the pressure to be perfect disappears. You begin to understand that making mistakes along the way doesn't disqualify you, it refines you. That even if you choose something and it doesn't turn out the way you expected, it can still bring immense reward if your intention was clean and your trust was in Allah. How many times have we obsessed over tiny details, trying to make the ideal choice, and in the end, things still went differently than we planned? That is because barakah is not in perfection, it is in purpose. It is in the sincerity of your your intention, in the reliance you place on your Lord, and in the action you take despite not knowing every detail. When you live for purpose instead of perfection, you stop being consumed by fear. You understand that even if you choose wrong, Allah can still redirect you. Even if you fall, He can still raise you. Even if it's messy, He can still bring beauty out of it. Why? Because the goal was never to be flawless, the goal was to be faithful. Perfection is about control. Purpose is about trust. Perfection seeks praise from people. Purpose seeks the pleasure of Allah. Perfection is exhausting. Purpose is liberating. And once you choose to live your life anchored in purpose, not perfection, then, my beloved brothers and sisters, one of the silent weapons of overthinking is inaction. It convinces you to wait, to delay, to pause, endlessly telling you you're not ready. You need to be 100% sure first. What if it doesn't work? Just think a little more. And so you sit there, paralyzed, not because there's no way forward, but because you're afraid to move. But let me share something powerful with you. Sometimes clarity only comes after movement, not before. Waiting for everything to be perfect before you act is like waiting for the sea to be completely calm before you sail. It may never happen. But once you take that first small step, you disturb the heaviness. You interrupt the fear, you create momentum. Even in the Deen we're taught the value of action. Allah does not say, "Think and I will change your condition." He says, indeed, Allah will not change the condition of a people until they change what is in themselves. Surah Ar-Od 13:11. Change begins with you doing something, no matter how small it seems. Sometimes the smallest action is the most powerful. A simple phone call, a few lines written down, a short walk, a single sajda, that first task you've been avoiding. You may not solve everything in that moment, but you break the grip of overthinking. You shift from being stuck to being in motion, because overthinking feeds on stillness. It thrives in delay. It wraps around you the longer you sit in the same place, going over the same thoughts, trying to perfect the future in your mind. But when you take a step, even if it's shaky, even if it's small, you send a message to your nafs, to your fear, and to Shaytaan. I will not be ruled by worry. I will move and I will trust. The Prophet Muhammad taught us through action. He didn't wait for ideal circumstances. He didn't say, "Let me think for 5 more years before making hera." No, he planned, he prepared, and he moved, even when the journey was dangerous, even when the path ahead was unclear. Why? Because action tied with Tawakkul is part of our faith, and don't underestimate what one step can do. That small effort might not fix everything today, but it opens the door for barakah, for new opportunities, for growth. It removes the inner pressure that comes from doing nothing. It trains your heart to depend on Allah rather than on a perfect plan. Sometimes the step is physical, sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's spiritual. But regardless of its form, it is a decision to stop letting fear decide for you. Taking action doesn't mean you don't feel uncertain. It means you move anyway, trusting that Allah sees your effort, even if no one else does. It means you value progress over perfection. It means you choose movement over mental chaos. You may not feel ready, and that's okay. Readiness often comes after obedience. Peace comes after the step. Barakah comes after the leap. My beloved brothers and sisters, sometimes the reason our hearts are unsettled and our minds are in chaos is not because we are weak or lost, but because we are surrounded by too much noise. And I'm not talking about traffic or loud music. I'm talking about the noise of the dunya, the constant messages, comparisons, pressures, and opinions that flood our lives every single day. We scroll endlessly through other people's lives, and we begin to doubt our own. We hear one opinion, then another, and instead of clarity, we are left with confusion. We ask one friend, then a second, then a third, and suddenly we can't hear our own voice anymore. You wake up, and before even saying Alhamdulillah, your hand reaches for your phone. And without realizing it, you've opened the door to the entire world, its trends, its worries, its judgments, and your soul hasn't even had time to breathe. This is the noise, and this noise is louder today than ever before. The dunya is constantly calling you, look at me, chase me, be more like them, you're behind, you're not enough, you need to have more. And if you don't intentionally turn that volume down, it will consume you. Allah has given us a feet, or a natural state of calm, peace, and clarity, but that calm is fragile in this world. It is easily drowned out by everything that pulls us away from our purpose. That is why we feel so unsettled after hours of scrolling. That is why too many opinions leave us more confused. That is why silence, real silence, feels rare. You were not created to constantly be connected to everything. You were created to be connected to the one who created everything. So turn down the volume of the dunya, not forever, but enough to hear what actually matters, enough to hear your heart again, enough to reconnect with the Quran, enough to reflect in peace, enough to realign your direction. Because when the dunya is loud, the soul becomes quiet, but when you make the dunya quiet, the soul begins to speak again. This is why Allah gives us windows of stillness like the early moments before Fajr, like Sujud, like the quiet after Da'ah. These are moments where the noise is meant to be shut off, where your soul remembers that it doesn't belong to this world, it belongs to Allah. Sometimes the answers you're seeking aren't missing, they're just being drowned out by too many voices, too many distractions, too much comparison. You won't find peace while your attention is scattered in 100 directions. You won't find peace chasing the approval of people who don't even know the reality of your heart. The Prophet often withdrew from the world even before revelation. He went to the cave of Hira, not because he was running away, but because he was preparing to receive something greater. That silence was not emptiness, it was sacred space. It was what allowed him to receive truth with clarity. So what about us? If we are constantly plugged in, constantly reacting, constantly consuming, how will we ever have space in our hearts for peace? For reflection, for guidance, for dua that is meaningful, not rushed. Silencing the noise is not about escaping responsibility. It's about protecting your soul. It's about choosing intentional presence over endless distraction. It's about saying, Ya Allah, I need to hear you more than I hear them. I need your guidance more than their approval. And when you finally step away, even for a while, you begin to notice something. You start to feel lighter, your thoughts become clearer, your prayers become deeper, you remember who you are and who you belong to. My beloved brothers and sisters, there comes a point in every believer's journey when the heart is full of hopes, full of fears, full of questions. You don't know what to do next. You've thought about it 100 times. You've imagined all the outcomes. You've gone back and forth, weighing every option, and still you feel stuck. And then someone reminds you, make dua. And you do. You raise your hands and say, Ya Allah, guide me, help me, show me what's best. I'm lost, I'm tired, I'm unsure. But here's the truth, for many of us, we don't let go after we make dua. We still carry the same burden. We still overthink the same decision. We say the words, but deep down, we're still trying to control every outcome with our own hands. But dua is not just a request. It's an act of surrender. It's your way of saying, Ya Allah, I've done what I can. Now I leave it with you. It is a moment of handing over your pain, your confusion, your delay, your dream, and trusting that the one who hears your whisper will never ignore your cry. You see, dua is an incredible gift. It is a direct line between you and the Creator of the heavens and the earth, the one who needs no appointment, no perfect wording, no middleman, no delay, the one who knows what's in your heart before you even say it. And still, he waits for you to ask. But what many of us do is this: we make dua, and then we keep checking the door every few seconds to see if it opened, and when it doesn't, we grow restless, we question. We doubt, maybe I didn't say it properly, maybe Allah is upset with me, maybe it's not working. But my dear brother, my dear sister, Allah is never deaf to your dua. The response might be different from what you expect. It might be delayed, it might be something better, it might be protection, but it is never ignored. Allah responds in the way that is best for you, not just in the way you imagine. And so the real test is not just in making dua. The real test is in what happens after dua. Will you keep carrying the burden, or will you hand it over to the one who can actually carry it? Letting go doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you stop hoping. It means you stop forcing. It means you stop playing scenarios in your head. Stop worrying yourself sick over things that only Allah can control. It means you stop checking your phone every 2 minutes after making dua for a message, an approval, a miracle. It means you breathe and say, I've asked. Now I'll wait with patience, hope, and trust. Because that's what Tawakkul looks like. You make dua, and then you go live your life. You make dua, and then you do your part. You make dua, and then you smile, knowing that even if the answer takes time, it's already being arranged. Don't let your dua be followed by despair. Let it be followed by faith. When you plant a seed, you don't dig it up every day to check if it's growing. You water it and you trust the process. Dua is the same. You may not see what's happening underground, but Allah is already at work, crafting something beautiful for you, something you couldn't have written better yourself. And sometimes letting go also means accepting what Allah has willed, even when it's not what you asked for. It means trusting that He knows what you don't, that He sees the unseen, that He loves you more than you even know how to love yourself. that he is protecting you from something you may have run toward if you had your way. So make dua deeply, sincerely, with a heart that believes, and then